What's going on YouTube? Evan here with Cloud9 Aquariums. Today we're going to get back to the Discus playlist. Now as you can probably see right behind me, my Discus have been definitely doing some growing. As you know from my couple updates, we've had some trials and tribulations, shall we say. But we're getting it going and they're growing nicely now. Got rid of a couple of the runts that were just not really doing anything. They stopped eating finally. But the ones we got now are really they're really pretty much doing fantastic. They're stoked to eat these blackworms. But today we're going to be talking about something that I think is very important, and that is definitely the entire concept of bare bottom tank. Now this is not only necessarily for Discus, but this is basically primarily I'm going to be talking about doing this with Discus. Now, most people don't really think about bare bottom tanks except for unless they were maybe breeders or a fish store. Now, why people don't think about that? Well, a lot of people like the look of the rock. They think it feels more comfortable for their fish, and yeah, they're very right. A lot of us, we've talked about in my filtration segments how a lot of your biological filtration can actually come from your media that's on the floor of your tank. Now, when you take that out of it, there's a whole new mix now. You got to think about where's your waste going. Now your waste is all going to be out in the open. Now there's some pros and cons to this. So this is kind of just one of those things you got to rethink. It's a whole new concept. It can actually be very, very nice though. So let's get into it. In terms of setting up a bare bottom tank, what do you really need to be worried about? Okay, a bare bottom tank, the factors that worry me per se, I guess, is the fact of I'm worried about my biological filtration. Okay, there's less media for your bacteria. Okay, so if you've watched my segments on cycling your tank, okay, a lot of that bacteria is going to be held in your gravel. Now, yes, of course, I want my biological filtration to be going on in my filter. That's definitely the best option. Clearly, because the water is going to be flowing past it, and then they're going to be able to get more efficient effect on their water column. But a bare bottom tank doesn't have that luxury. Okay, so your only biological filtration, it has to be housed in your filters. Now, let's say for instance you don't have a canister filter. What are you going to do? Well, here's what I'm doing. Okay, this tank right here does not actually run with a canister filter. I've got two bare bottom tanks going right now. I've got my 90-gallon downstairs, which I'm running with a canister filter, and I'm doing sponge filters on that also. Okay, now those are both great, fantastic in terms of your biological filtration, especially your sponge filters. Sponge filters are great basically for your fry tanks or for something that you're looking to add more biological filtration to. I wouldn't really recommend them for your mechanical filtration, as they're really not doing too much with that per se, I guess. So that's why I have two hang-on backs in here. Both of them are completely unnecessarily way too powerful, I guess you could say. Each one would probably be fine for the entire tank alone. So I'm definitely doubling my filtration. Okay, that's one thing I'm doing. In terms of a Discus tank, as you all know, that they need very, very, very clean water. So I'm doing water changes very frequently. Some people are very adamant about doing 50 to 80% water changes every single day. Now I have done that in the past, but sometimes I will go 2 days, possibly 3 days. But usually I only do 3 days if I'm actually medicating them for something. So that's just because that's the recommendation for their medication. But I definitely try to do every day or every other day. That's definitely it just seems to do a lot better. They're always a lot more happy. And they don't seem to be as stressed out when you're giving them some good water changes, big water changes very frequently. So when you're doing big water changes like that, you got to ask yourself, does it really matter to have the biological filtration? And the real answer to that is not really. Okay, the only reason that you need to be concerned with that is if you're overpopulating your tank. Now this tank right behind me is a 30-gallon. Okay, I've got about 12 rummy nose in there right now, 2 bristle nose plecos, bunch of assassin snails, and 3 discus in there. Okay, it's definitely by no means overcrowded. Okay, there's plenty of room in there. If I'm doing my water changes weekly, it would be fine. Okay, So I'm really not concerned with the fact that I'm doing it every day. It doesn't really matter in terms of your biological filtration, because your stability is actually really going to be coming from your water changes. I mean, your tap water, that's really going to be your stable ground. You know, your water chemistry is not going to change from your tap water because there's really no time, because you're going to be changing your water again. So that's actually something that's really awesome about it. Another awesome thing that I'm actually really enjoying about a bare bottom tank is they're so easy to clean. As you know, if you've watched my other videos, I have a lot of planted tanks, some dirted, and they can be a little bit challenging to take care of at times. Not in terms of are they really hard to take care of? No, it's just sometimes it's a little bit time consuming, because if you let it slack off for a while, you know, when you have to get in there, it's not just a quick, you know, I mean, this tank is literally just vacuum it up real quick, and then you sit there and wait for the water to go down, and you fill it back up. Done. You know, whereas the other ones, I am constantly pruning my plants, moving my plants. You know, I'm being careful not to disturb the dirt when I'm going through. You want to make sure you get a good vacuum on all of your gravel, because you don't want to have too much excess waste sitting in there. You know, there's a couple more factors. You know, I can't really get around my plants too much without uprooting them. So, you know, in terms of actually being very easy to take care of, these are fantastic. And that's one of the reasons why we do it, because discus are messy eaters. The two main things that especially young discus are eating, mine haven't started on it yet, but beef heart, I'm hoping that pretty soon they'll finally be accepting to it. They're not really into it yet. But beef heart is very, very messy. It comes in a frozen cube form, and it's just very messy. And if you let it get into gravel and stuff like that, you're going to have outrageous algae problems and things like that. So it's better left in a bare bottom tank. And plus, it helps them clean it up better too, I find. You know, they'll really go in after I'm done feeding them, and they'll clean up any type of flake that's on the bottom. The live blackworms, they definitely will. They'll chase them around, because again, your blackworms will burrow, and then they may never be seen again. So that can be something where they're out in the open. You're really getting the most benefit out of them, because every single one's gonna get eaten eventually. You know. The rummy nose don't seem to mind at all. Rummy nose are great companions. As you can see, the discus are they're a little bit nervous right now, because I'm hanging out in front of the tank, and for some reason, around dinner time, they really prefer to be left alone while they're eating. Mine they're not quite there yet. You know, they're getting a little bit more bold, but they're still kind of nervous. So hopefully they'll bold up a little bit. But as you can see, some of them are kind of searching around for food right now. So that's basically what it's like to have a bare bottom tank. You know, as you can see, I do plant it, I suppose you could say. What I'm doing is I'm really just taking clippings out of my 30 tall, and my 42, but I'm taking pretty much out of my 30 tall, and because everything just grows so ridiculously there, that I just take my clippings and I put some lead weights around them and sink them in here, because I figure, well, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to grow, and it's going to be awesome, or they're going to die, and I'll just put new ones in, because honestly, I'm going to throw them out anyways. So, although I know a lot of you would love to, get your hands on some of this stuff right now, but it's going to good use, and actually it isn't dying, it's actually growing pretty nicely. So this is actually also an experiment for me, is how can this stuff do without, without a root system, pretty much. You're just kind of sitting and hanging out right there. It seems to be doing okay. It's not getting as bushy as I'd like it to be, obviously, because it's not really getting that nutrients that it needs, but the big water changes frequently are actually helping the plants grow, so I'll give it that. That's getting, some fresh nutrients to it. But that's not what you care about. What we care about is how we are doing this discus right now in this tank. So, that's pretty much it. I do like to put a lot of plants in there. I gave them this nice little log thing, just so they can hide out. There you go. There's the big dude. He's just hanging out, eating some worms and stuff. Chilling like a villain. What's up, bro? Look at him. They slurp them like spaghetti. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, they're getting real big. If you look back at my videos, they were probably I don't know, last time I made a video, they were like quarter size, so they've definitely, I'd say he's almost 2 inches now, so we're getting there. They're definitely getting there. And I like to, the reason I like to put a bunch of plants in here, I see people with very bare tanks, and discus, especially while they're growing, tend to be kind of a nervous type of fish. You see them when they're big, they're so friendly and happy. It's not necessarily that they're stressed out, they're easily spooked, so that's why people say that you don't want to put your tank, when you're thinking about location, you want to put your tank, near an area that's very heavy trafficked, say it's in your house, and there's like your one main traffic zone, you really don't want to put them right there, just because they can kind of get spooked and they'll get stressed out easily. So that's why I put them back in the, I mean, I can still see them very nicely, but they're not quite out in the open, so they're not quite so spooked. And again, that's why I also put plants in there in the log for them to hide under and stuff. It's just all something to make them feel comfortable, because, the less stressed they are, the better they're going to grow, the bigger they're going to grow, and the better their colors are going to be. So, another thing you want to think about, too, with Discus is, obviously we're talking about in terms of tank, is you'll notice my background here is white. Actually, I have to turn my contrast way down on my camera when I'm taking the video of this, just because it's so reflective. But actually, the white is actually going to help, or at least there's much theory that when you put a white background behind, that when they're especially when they're growing, that they won't pepper quite so much. Now, if you're not familiar with what peppering is, the basic gist of what peppering is if you look at say pigeon bloods, for instance, go look them up online and you'll see a lot of them. Their colorations and their markings will be kind of blotched out by this. It's like this black, almost speckled all over them, and it's called peppering. And the most pure genes that you could possibly get, the best showfish have no peppering whatsoever. And one way to help, obviously the best way is to get your breeders, buy your fish from breeders who have parents with zero peppering to start out with. Clearly that's going to be the best option. But another option to help you at least minimize peppering is to have a white background behind it. Usually my other tanks I'll put a blue or a black background behind. One of them I've even got one of those, like, looks like you're playing a tank behind it, but that's just because that's what I had hanging out. So it looks nice, but again, also you got to think about with the bare bottom tank is that you're not going to be able to, they're going to be able to see through the bottom of the tank. So some fish aren't very disturbed by it. My one downstairs, I have nothing underneath it, and they could care less. Whereas these guys, they seem to do a lot better when I actually put some cardboard underneath it, just to block it out, so it looks like they have a base underneath, because they were kind of getting a little bit stressed out about it. But once when I replaced the stand, so it had an opening underneath, I put the cardboard underneath. Now they're much better. Their colors are showing a lot better. You'll notice when they're getting stressed out that their color will actually change. These guys will lose their blue, and they'll kind of turn almost not a black, but they'll actually darken up. Some fish will really do that. Like, I know when my angelfish get excited, especially my silver one that's got she's got black stripes on her. Whenever she gets really excited, especially for her feeding time, her black stripes will completely disappear and she'll look like she's solid silver. It's pretty cool. So just a little tidbit, but yeah, we're doing good. Tank's going on. Hope you guys are trying Discus out. I'm having a blast with them. Definitely been a frustrating experience. But you got to understand, I'm also growing them from extremely small fish, where I'm gonna get the runts. I'm gonna get some that are just, they're gonna get flukes and such diseases that are completely and utterly, I have no clue what they are. So it's definitely an experience, but it really just showed me this is why you buy these fish in the pet stores at 3.5 inches at least. And that's why they're so expensive too, because you know what? They are very challenging to grow up. It's not something that, if you're a beginner and you want to get Discus, I mean, listen, I wanted to get them too, but just from my experience and already what I'm going through, I would definitely not recommend it for beginners. So those of you who are like, let's get some Discus, no, you know what you need to get? You need to get some guppies, okay? If you're a beginner, that's what's up. And you know what? The reason I'm talking about some is because I got some to show you. So stay tuned, check out my videos, because I got some coming up, and I'm going to be showing you how to breed some guppies. So what's up? But as always, let's get this popping. I'm loving the fact that we got so many subscribers right now. I've got over 100,000. We just passed 100,000 views on the channel, so give it up for yourselves, because that's pretty awesome. But definitely, keep sharing these videos all over your. Come on, people, it's one click. Share this on your Facebook, your Twitter, whatever account you want to share it on. I could care less, but share it on your social medias, because that that helps me out, and that also brings this community together, because we're all going to take care of each other, because obviously I can't answer all of your questions, and I can't come up with all these video ideas by myself. You got to help me out there. So for sure, keep doing what you're doing. Like this video if you actually like it. If you don't like it, you should still like it, because that's awesome, and I don't know why you wouldn't like it. Leave me a comment, send me messages, you know the routine, guys. As always, I hope this brings you and your Discus tanks a little bit closer to Cloud 9.